In today's gospel, Thomas became a believer because he saw. But yet the whole theme of today's gospel is, blessed are those who have not seen and have believed. There's Thomas. Here's Thomas, walked with the Lord for 3 years, ate with him, saw the miracles he did, and knew that Jesus was God, or thought he was, but the whole point was that he doubted the fact that he was alive. And he did not have faith in the words of his fellow apostles. He did not trust that they had seen the Lord. In fact, the term doubting Thomas has come down through the centuries as somewhat a part of our language. Have we ever considered how much trust that we put and faith in the people who tell us, be it about religion or politics or whatever the subject may be? We have to put faith in what a person tells us to be true, especially if that person telling us are honest and trustworthy. It all boils down to the confidence we have and the faith in what the others, those that we truly trust, have said to us. Our Catholic faith is passed down through generations and generations to all of us by people we trust and believe in. We also pass on this gift of faith to others, particularly our children. I was lucky enough to have known both sides of my grandparents. I loved hearing about their history and their lives and about the history of our family. I believed and trusted in what they told me and what they said. They also passed on their Catholic faith to my parents, when it was passed on to them by their parents and their parents and their parents and their grandparents, all the way back 2,000 years ago, 40 generations, all the way back to the time of Christ, actually. Our Catholic faith has been passed down to us these 2,000 years. Therefore, one of my great 40 generations back, grandparents actually were the first Christians. And they believed in the message that Jesus passed on, given to the generations. Have you ever thought about that? Your parents came that far back. If somehow, this is critical to this homily, if somehow I could put myself in a reverse time machine, I would like to take myself back almost 2,000 years ago to the year 53. I picked 53 because that's 20 years after Jesus died and rose from the dead. Somehow I would search out and I would find my great-grandparents at that time, and I would who lived during the time of Jesus, and I would like to ask them a couple of questions because I would trust what they would tell me. Now remember, my reverse time machine has put me back 2,000 years ago in Jerusalem. First, I would go to my grandfather and I would say, "Grandpa, what do you remember about Jesus of Nazareth?" And Grandpa might reply, "Well, son, I was a young man driving a wagon with a team of horses down Jericho Lane to Bethany one day. But the road was clogged and I couldn't get by the road. There was a huge crowd in front of the cemetery. They were blocking the road. About half a block away, I saw this man called Lazarus, who everybody thought was dead. Jesus had brought him back from the dead. I couldn't believe it. Lazarus was alive. He was still wrapped in his burial cloth. I saw Jesus talk to Lazarus, but I couldn't hear what he said. Now that's the day I truly started to believing in Jesus. And then I would ask Grandma what she knew about Jesus. And Grandma might say, "I knew the man who was born blind, and Jesus brought sight back to him. We knew him very well. He lived 3 doors down the street from us on Bethlehem Lane. The authorities didn't believe that he was alive. He was kind of quiet, but if you were blind, from birth, you'd be quiet too. But after Jesus gave him his sight, you couldn't keep him quiet. All he talked about was Jesus and regaining his sight." Grandma then continues by saying, "The authorities and some of the neighbors tried to discount his story, saying it was somebody else, but all of the families and us from the neighborhood knew it was him. This miracle opened my eyes as to who Jesus was, and I've been a follower ever since." Now, continuing this time machine story of 2,000 years ago, I would ask my grandparents this key question, and this gets to the heart of the homily. Did you ever see Jesus after he rose from the dead? And they said, no, we never saw Jesus after he rose from the dead, but we knew he was risen from the dead and he was alive because we trusted in the people who had seen him and who we knew. They were witnesses we trusted. And because we knew and trusted in them, we believed in them. And the apostles, man, they changed dramatically, literally overnight. Before the resurrection, they were afraid, cautious, and indecisive. And then Grandma and Grandpa continued on by saying, after the resurrection, they had a complete change of character. They were enthusiastic and outgoing and driven to proclaim the gospel and the good news. It was as if there was some invisible spirit driving them to do these things. No reasonable explanation could have been given for the account of the apostles' transformation except they had seen the risen Lord. We never saw Jesus, they said, after he rose from the dead, but there was never any doubt about it in our minds because we believed and trusted the people who had told us. So I thank my interview. Now let's come back to Glenview in the year 2022. In essence, our operative word today becomes faith. We stated at every Mass, right in the middle of the Eucharistic prayer, right after the consecration. We proclaim your death, O Lord, and profess your resurrection until you come again. Frequently, we don't really think of what we're saying. It just kind of rolls off our tongue. But it's a great theological thought. We proclaim your death, O Lord, and profess your resurrection until you come again. Okay. We are all believers, or we wouldn't be here today. None of us have ever seen Jesus, of course, but we are all believers because people who we have loved and trusted, primarily our parents, have passed on to us the Catholic faith. They have passed on this faith to all of us about the risen Christ. And we have to give this same testimony about our faith to others, especially our children, to carry on this Catholic tradition. Most importantly, we do this by our presence right here at Mass every Sunday. We do this by the way we lead our lives. We do this by the example we give to others. We are all carriers of the torch of faith to others. However, those of us who are parents have an especially awesome responsibility to pass this tradition of faith on to our children. In closing, everything we do in our lives is a witness to our faith in God. Like Thomas, we may have doubts in our lives, and that's understandable. And we sometimes fail to be a good person. But we have those great reassuring words of Jesus at the very end of his gospel. Blessed are those of you who have not seen and have believed.
Thank you for joining us for the celebration of the Mass today. It's a blessing that you are with us. Every broadcast of this liturgy goes out to hundreds of people and hundreds of people all over the world. It's been an enormous blessing. If you'd like to support this virtual ministry of OLPH, please go to our website. You can support this ministry by going to Give Central so that we can continue to broadcast the liturgy each and every week. Thank you for your support. Most of all, thank you for joining us today. God bless you. Greetings from OLPH.